Good evening. It's April 19th, 2026. I'm Sai Marie Johnson, and you are listening to Histories of Horror.
And I'm A.O. Knuckles. Welcome back. Tonight, we're stepping away from the modern era and traveling back 57 years to a spring night in Eugene, Oregon.
We're looking at a case that feels like it was ripped from a noir film, but the blood and the grief were very real. It's the story of Janet Shanahan.
69, Eugene was a very different world, but some things never change. People still look for their loved ones when they didn't come home, and the police still look for monsters in the shadows.
It was April 21st, 1969. Janet Shanahan, a 22-year-old with her whole life ahead of her, was out celebrating a relative's birthday.
It was a night for family and joy, but there was a notable absence. Her husband, Christopher Shanahan, didn't attend the party with her.
While Janet was laughing and celebrating, Christopher stayed behind at their residence. As the clock kicked toward 11:30 p.m., the party ended and Janet headed toward her car. She was expected home, but as the hours turned into the early morning of April 22nd, her side of the bed remained empty.
By the time the sun came up, the concern had turned into a full-blown panic. Christopher Shanahan eventually contacted the authorities to report that Janet had failed to return.
This is that window of time we talk about so often here on Histories of Horror, the agonizing silence between a disappearance and a discovery.
For nearly 2 days, the search centered on the route between the party and the Shanahan home. Friends, family, and local police scanned the streets of Eugene, hoping to see Janet's 1951 Plymouth Coupe parked at a diner or a gas station.
The search ended on April 23rd, 1969, around 6 a.m. Christopher Shanahan was out with a friend of Janet's when they spotted the familiar silhouette of the Plymouth Coupe.
The car was parked on Cross Street, just west of Maple Street. It looked abandoned, sitting quietly in the morning sun.
Christopher approached the vehicle. In a moment that would haunt that neighborhood for decades, he opened the trunk. Inside, the search for a missing person became a homicide investigation.
When the police arrived at Cross Street, the scene was grim. Finding a body in the trunk of a vehicle usually suggests an attempt to hide the crime or transport a victim.
The investigation into the 1951 Plymouth revealed the true brutality of Janet's final moments. She hadn't just been killed, she had been sexually assaulted before her life was taken.
This wasn't a crime of passion that happened in the heat of the moment. It was a violent, predatory act that left a 22-year-old woman discarded like refuse in her own car.
The coroner's report confirmed what the scene suggested. The cause of death was strangulation.
As we discussed in our look at Jeffrey Hutchinson back in February, different weapons tell different stories. While Hutchinson used a 12-gauge shotgun to create distance and carnage, strangulation is intimate and prolonged.
It requires a specific kind of coldness. The killer had to stay with Janet in her final moments, watching the life leave her eyes in that quiet area near Maple Street.
This is where the story of Janet Shanahan deviates from many of the cases we cover. In the Hutchinson case, the evidence was overwhelming. Gunshot residue and human tissue.
But in 1969 Eugene, the trail wasn't as clear. Christopher Shanahan was the one who reported her missing and the one who ultimately found her, a narrative that often draws intense police scrutiny.
Was it a random predator lurking near the birthday party? Or was it a horror already inside the house? For decades, the community has grappled with the lack of a definitive resolution in the way modern forensics might have provided.
This is still a cold case that the Eugene Police Department has yet to find closure on. If you have any details or might be able to give any tips, please contact the EPD with more information.
Today, April 19, 2026, we stand just 2 days away from the anniversary of Janet's disappearance.
Her story didn't end with a death warrant or a final statement in a sterile room. It remains an open wound for those who remember the 22-year-old beautiful woman who just wanted to go home after celebrating a birthday party.
No matter how much time passes, the 1951 Plymouth on Cross Street remains a stark reminder.
I'm Sai Marie Johnson for A.L. Knuckles and myself. This is the sign-off. Thank you for listening to Histories of Horror. Until next time, tune in every 2 weeks and we'll have more stories to tell you.